Rift of Nations, Session 22, DC Breakdown. We're breaking down Session 22. They left off in a breaking and entering into the capital of the church, like the church capital in the city of their own home city that they turned against. In the session before that, they were arrested by the king, and the king kidnapped them, arrested them. Yeah, he arrested them. They broke out. They left everything. They went into the church because they got to break out one of the player characters' grandmothers. One of the player characters' grandmothers is a very important figure who has amnesia to not even know that they're a very important figure. And the player, the barbarian, Q the barbarian, gave his lovely grandmother to the church, who is they are messing with memory magic and brainwashing, wiping people's minds as they're posing as this good thing that recovers memories and helps people from some weird amnesia things that are going on, but they're the source of it. It's crazy, right? So the player literally handed over on a silver platter his own grandmother, who's a very important key NPC in the big story of everything, handed her over, and now they're paying the consequences for it after fleeing from the kingdom of the actual castle to then in the same night, they decided they were either going to have a day to kind of prep it, or they were just, we're going to go right now. We're going to go right now. We're going to get this thing done. So they went into it and they ended the session after all this breaking and sneaking around, stealthing around. I talked about this in the last episode, but they get to the door, and then the high priestess summons herself there, appears there, and that's where we ended the session off. So now what the heck happens? What I knew I had to prep a combat, right? So I always start these things off with what did I think was going to happen, and then what actually happened. So it was pretty beautiful with a big old curveball at the end. So what actually happened was pretty on point with what I thought as far as the combat goes. But then there was a really cool highlight moment that we'll get to. So the fight started off with the if I were to try and show it with my hands, we'll use this side of the screen over here. Okay, so Corey, the person they were trying to break in and capture and get out, Ivar the fighter worked his way to get Corey, and then Q the barbarian worked his way, broke through a wall and came in here to get Corey, and then that's when the high priestess came in and popped in over here. And then on the far other side of the map, barely on the map, literally at the edge of the battle map that I drew out, on the far side we have Darius, who's the nature druid-y type warlock spellcaster, up on the wall as ready for, because they just thought this is going to be a B&E. They're going to get in, get out, let's go. He's like holding the rope, getting it ready. And then on the other side of the wall, outside the walls of this church, is Clara, the artificer / ranger. She's on the outside of the wall. And Claude, her cat, if you guys have been following along with the story, she has a pet cat that was magical and had some weird things going on with it. Turns out this magical pet cat was actually a druid who had shapeshifted into a cat, but had his memory wiped and was just actually a person. So then whenever enough damage was dealt to the cat to then turn him back into his human form, he was a human, and it was a surprise to him as well. Wait a second, what's going on here, right? Technically with halfling, but whatever. So he's standing on the outside there, and I had a D20 random magic table of what happens to his magic whenever things get stressful and he has to do something. So they said, we need you to go do this, and Claire's like, go now, hurry, go. And then he's like, okay. And I said, I need you, Clara, I had the player roll this for me. I said, I need you to roll a D20 for me. And she rolled a natural 1. She rolled a natural 1 in this random moment of, Claude, go, hurry. And Claude, what would happen? I want you to ask yourselves right now, what would happen? Claude turns back into a cat. So he shapeshifts into a cat, and now he's back to being a cat in a very hilariously ironic situation where he's now turned back into a cat. But how I was role-playing this character is he wanted to be a cat. So for anybody who's invested in Claude and his catness, he's back to being a cat now, thanks to a natural 1 on a random roll table that I had. Yeah. So anyway, Claude's now a cat, and he runs off into the forest. Okay, cool. So focusing on them, the main thing that's happening for this combat is, here's the combat. I'm going to show it on the screen right now. This was the combat that I prepared. I had some apex actions for a charm and everything. Oh my gosh, hold up. Time out. I did some crazy stuff, y'all. So before the session happened, I sent individual videos to each player. This is huge. I sent individual videos to each player and I acted as if they had learned and remembered something, right? And I acted, I was lying my butt off. But I went to each of the 4 of them separately, individually, and I said, you've seen this person before. This is actually somebody from your backstory. You remember them. Remember the person in your backstory, this old woman that helped you in this moment? That's her. And you piece it together. Oh my gosh. And I'm saying it just like I was saying it right now, right? So I'm hyping it up. Like, this is the person that helped you in your past. This is a good person. Wait, what's happening here? And then Q, even the Warforged Q, he woke up and the only person he saw was Corey and the cat, right? And I was like, actually, you remember, your memory fit, you look over towards your right and in view is this person. She is actually, she was there when you were awakened. This person helped you awaken. This is huge, right? So I sent these lying videos to each of my players because we ended the session on a note of the start of the combat. But her first layer Apex action is a mass charm, DC 16 intelligence saving throw to convince everyone that she's actually a person from their past. Woo! So I send it out there. DC 16 is a pretty high intelligence save, especially for this level 5 group. So they all rolled and they all failed except for one character. One character failed. One character didn't fail. Ivar the fighter. So what I did is I had already sent that video out to everybody because I can't say those things in front of everybody or they'd know I'm lying. They'd know everything. They know the jig is up, right? But here's the thing. Whenever I asked them to make an intelligence save at the beginning before the fight even happened, I didn't ask for an intelligence save. I said, everybody roll a d20. I have their intelligence saving throw modifiers on the back of my Dungeon Master screen. So I looked at those, added up the numbers. They said the numbers to me. All of them failed except for one, right? So all I did is I got up off the chair, I went over to the character and I whispered into his ear. I said, the marker I sent you, the video I sent you is bullshit. I was lying. This is her trying to get into your head and remember and implant herself into your mind as someone that's a friend. She's not a friend. She tried to act like it, and you have shaken this off. And this memory that you had that she tried to place herself into, you shake it off, and you remember that was not her, and she tried to mess with your mind. You're free from it. I whispered that whole thing to her. And so now that's exactly where I want everybody to be. That was a really exciting moment. I love doing stuff like that. Oh, I love doing stuff like that. So anyway, this then transitioned into the actual combat of what's going on now. So back to the combat screen. We have the Apex actions and stuff she can do. I had her offensive stuff if she ever did anything offensive. Really cool thing. She had a temporary health shield that recovered at the top of every round. So she had 20 hit points of a temporary shield on herself that recovered every round, right? So if only one person was fighting her, they might not ever take her down. But as soon as they break that shield, they can actually deal damage to her again. And then it refreshes in the next round. So really interesting little mechanic there. And that'll get into, that'll come up here in a second. And then we also have, she had some actions. She could do a fog cloud. I never ended up using this. She had a guiding bolt situation where she could shoot a guiding bolt at a target, dealing. I had to deal 3d10 radiant damage, but it did not have advantage on the next whatever. It became the marked target for all the wandering NPCs. In the middle of this combat, there are NPCs that had been brainwashed by this organization, right? So these NPCs, they're all crazy. I had 5 different. I had these. They're down here, right? I had one person thought they were a mongoose. Another person thought they were a warforged. Another person just didn't want people to fight. Another person kept talking about skin ice cream, which is weird and cringy and gross, but that was what randomly came into my head there. Who knows? I don't know why, but anyway, so there's these weird inmates of this brainwashing facility that were kind of wandering around helplessly, but as soon as she guiding bolt targets a person, they all gravitate towards that person, and she can change the target whoever she hits with that. So she also had a bonus action to slow people down and lose action economy. She had some legendary actions, layer actions, all that kind of stuff. Right now, I'll say this. I did not use a layer action once. Actually, no, that's a lie. On the fly in the middle of nowhere, I reflavored. I put this layer action into her legendary action, and she didn't have a layer action. She had her Apex actions that happened at the beginning of the round, but I didn't do the layer action because I already had the Apex action, and I just took the cool layer action she could do and put it with the legendary, and I had that be something that she could do, right? It just felt right in the moment as far as the flow of things. So sometimes she might send out the psychic damage as a legendary action, like a magic missile of psychic damage, and the other one was a possession type of situation, right? So she had those two things to be able to do. And I used them as I saw fit. But that's kind of the kit of where this was going. And another thing is the player, Darius, at the end of the last session, he had this like natural 20 moment where he distracted and disabled the guards in some way. So I had him roll a D4, and that was how many rounds they were going to wait until they entered into the battle. So it was a cool, nice little delay. And man, oh man, if that delay didn't happen, it would have been even way more rough, right? So to do a quick rundown through the combat, basically, Q and the High Priestess were going back and forth, toe to toe. Q, Wild Magic Barbarian, he Wild Magic rolls a 5. I have a whole video on a Wild Magic table. He's literally using that. It's a complete homebrew rework of the Wild Magic Barbarian. He rolls a 5 and he gets this lightning reactive aura. So he has this supercharged with lightning now. He's like going toe to toe with her, and the thing, he like jumps up and punches. He has these rock gauntlets on that deal more damage to rocks and earth type things. So he jumps up, uppercut punches the ceiling to like bring in and collapse partially everything onto her. Crazy. Lots of really cool moments, and I could talk about individual rulings and how I ruled each and every single one of that, but this was a lot. There's a lot to get into, so I'm gonna abridge all of that. I could talk about these in live streams too, and I'd love to do DC breakdown videos of actually recording this gameplay, so I could show the gameplay, what happened and what rulings I came up with. Y'all can see all this live. Eventually, we'll get there, guys. We'll get there. So anyway, they're having this huge duke out. So back to the screen of where they were at. Q, Ivar, and Corey, the grandmother that they're saving, and the High Priestess are all over here, and then everybody else is waiting outside, right? So they're in this battle. Ivar's trying to take her out to get her to safety. Q's literally fighting one-on-one right here. Darius and Clara are very good, not metagamers and great role players. And they're like, we're waiting. Like, what's happening? I was like, you start to hear, so their first round was essentially nothing. Like, what do I hear? What's going on? He sent them a sending message. They started to piece it together. So props to them for not metagaming. And I didn't even have to rule. I didn't even have to stop them. But like, hey, yeah, your character, what did he, like, they did a great job. They were almost going too far with it, you know. Darius was role playing it so well. He's like, I really don't think I would know that there's a crisis to go in the High Priest. Why would I know? Why would I think the High Priestess comes out of nowhere? You know what I'm saying? So he was doing a great job of not acting, right? And so, granted, this fight is balanced around everyone going, and if two players are on the far right, or I guess, oh yeah, so I'm looking at the screen of where this fight is to show. If they're on the far side over here and they're not helping at all, understandably so, the fight starts to turn, and she uses her legendary action to dominate and mind control Q, and turns, and the version of this mind control isn't a domination effect. It's literally her getting into his mind and planting false memories, and she spins it around in his head, and all he sees is Ivar with Corey taking her, and he's like, and I tell him, you think Ivar is stealing Corey. Ivar is the one kidnapping Corey. This place is helping her, and he is trying to get her out of here. This person is helping her, and he is trying to escape and take Corey away from you. You have to stop him. So I threw this out to my player. Technically, I should control his character and do what he does and all that kind of stuff, and then you can have the player roll for it. But what I told him, and I trusted him in this moment of as a player, I trusted him. I said, you are in control of your character still. If you do something and I'm like, no, I might intervene, but I'm giving you complete freedom of what would Q do? What would your character do in this possessed moment where you have to stop Ivar? And I had the priest cast haste on him to supercharge buff him even more, right? So he has haste on him now. He runs down the hallway, grabs Ivar, grapples him, attacks him, pins him, tries to restrain him, and he starts going to town at him. So now Ivar is hits with the guy. I forgot to say that part. He's hit with the guiding bolt to where all the NPCs are drawn towards him now. Q is turned against him, and he's now pinned against the wall. It's literally Ivar with characters all around him. It was a rough spot. And then just then is when the other two players on the outside are able to see, oh, we got to help. Here we go. And then all of this comes. Now, I had Broadstone in the back corner. If y'all know who Broadstone is, the NPC, I had him in the wings waiting for when he might come out, and if I needed him to come out or not, early or later. So I was waiting on that. I had that little secret in my DM tool belt back pocket ready to play if I needed to. But I want to see how things go. So all of this is going on. All this craziness is happening. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. The guards are starting to now come in because enough rounds have happened now. the priestess, I realized that Darius, the spellcaster on the outside, he was waiting so long and role playing well, but the players on the outside weren't acting. So things got really bad. And I was like, how can I engage them more? How can what would the character do? What would still make sense? What would the high priestess do? Okay, this makes sense. So she teleported or like far stepped to the spot to stop them from leaving, because they were running across the leave, and she teleports to stop them with her back to Darius, right? Understandably so. He hasn't shown himself at all. Everyone else, the entire rest of the party, has shown themselves. Darius has not shown himself once. So her back's to him. She has no idea that he's there. And this is where the big curveball comes in. The fight is definitely in the side of the bad guys right now, right? I am winning like pretty badly right now, mainly because Darius and Clara haven't acted too much. Clara finally scales the wall and runs in to kind of, she helps attack one of the NPCs. Q is still mind control. He failed his next mind control. I gave him a save at the top of every round, or at the top of his turn. He could try and save. He's failing them. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. So here's the big moment. Darius uses his wind magic to kind of like descend, like get himself up to her. And he says, I want to take one of the memory crystals that he has, and I want to come up from behind her and put it on her forehead and say, I want you to remember me, blah, blah, blah. And he like references a thing about the lie that I told him in the video. I told him that this person is one of the people in your Thieves Guild that helped you work up through the ranks in the Thieves Guild. She knows you. And he's called her by name, which is wrong and not her. The whole thing's a lie. So he calls her by name and said, I need you to remember, I need your help. And he thinks that she's brainwashed. I could tell that he thought, or his character thought, that she was brainwashed and he was going to save her and reset her memories. But he has no idea. I got chills just now. He has no idea what that does. She is a high priestess of nightmare magic, and she has one of her gemstones that steal people's memory used against her in this very beautifully poetic reversal of things. Yes, he had to make some stealth checks to try and get up there to be able to do this thing. And he also had to make a spell check for his own magic, because his magic is kind of based around nightmare magic as well. He doesn't really know that right now. But with these crystals, it has been canon since the beginning that people, when they put the crystals to their forehead, nothing happens. But when Darius does it, something happens. And so Darius has been the one to have to activate these memory crystals to help people remember their past and all this other kind of stuff. But this crystal used on who he did and what I knew from lore that I can't really even get into right now. She's a nightmare priestess that is heavily influenced by nightmare energy, and it used against her. Literally, she's partially possessed by this, and part of it left into that crystal as well. And whenever she did reset her memory to be a good person now, she knows a lot. And he reset her memory to not possess. And I also, in these little crystals, they've always been just these foggy little crystals. I described, there's this little purple energy worm that's like, looks like it's alive fighting to get out. And he's like, that's creepy as hell. Wait, what? So she's now cleansed. He cleansed her and reset her back to normal. So as soon as he did that, I just got chills again. Can you all see the chills? Can you all see the chills there? I don't know. Anyway, so he goes and he gets this off. All the rolls go his way. Brilliant move goes his way. And blinding light shoots out. The mind control drops off of Darius. I go around the table. I said, everyone, all those videos that I sent you beforehand, where this person is a key part in your backstory, was a lie. She implanted herself into each of your minds in very, very important parts to make you doubt if you should kill her or not, to make you doubt if what you're doing is right or not. But the only person that saved is Ivar. And what I told him at the table was the Marco, and everything else, everything I sent you in that video was all a lie. And they're like, oh my gosh. So like a little bit of a mind blow moment at the table on top of this crazy move that the player makes to then free up this person. And now she's saved. Now this church, the high priestess of the church, Darius literally saved her. Crazy moment. And now I'm like, all right, this is when Broadstone comes in. Broadstone, for anyone who doesn't know, is an evil NPC. He is been transitioned to be the BBEG of this. He is a furbolg who is an evil race in this type of thing, and they're from an ancient history of they were the ones that caused I don't want to get too far into this. Check out the channel for all of the history of the lore of this world. There's an ancient race of generations that has all the nations of the nation of ancient nations past. There's 10 ancient nations. There's 10 current nations. The ancient nations were just the two. What's the word I'm looking for? Deceived, betrayed. There we go. They were betrayed by the Furbolgs, and the whole thing went south after that. This guy is from that, and so now that the church member, he's been working together with the church member. As soon as she's now freed, as soon as she's now cleansed of this, they knock her out, and she had her health was pretty low from all the stuff of her and Q battling it out. There's also a big huge moment where she's like incapacitated by this crystal, and then Q like tackles her and Darius. Darius is holding her in the same time, and Q completely tackles her and Darius, smashes him. Actually, Darius takes damage from the whole thing, and like knocks her out on the ground. They incapacitate her to save her, and this is whenever Broadstone comes in. Broadstone, the werewolf, he shapeshifts himself to look not like Broadstone, so they don't even know it's Broadstone, and they didn't even put together that Broadstone is a known shapeshifter, and he shapeshifted into a werewolf, which is also part of the story in the campaign world, to jump off the wall, leap in, and attack and kill her. Now, they had a chance to save her. There's multiple different chances to save her, but 3 of the players didn't really want to save her, and only 1 did. So I was able to, with this werewolf, with Broadstone posing as a werewolf undercover, technically. I was going to say that he was Broadstone. I was literally 1 turn away from saying, like, it's me, it's Broadstone, I need to do, but I was like, wait a second. They aren't putting it together that this is Broadstone, and they're kind of letting me do this. I could totally not get away with this. So I kill her. I kill the NPC. She's unconscious or whatever. As the werewolf NPC, I bite her throat, kill her completely outright, so she can't talk, she can't release any more information. All of these magic items and special things are on her. They leave her body and leave. So I describe as the werewolf going through, finding a book and taking her staff and running. And then the barbarian Q tried to stop him, but as soon as she went unconscious, his haste dropped, the haste that he had, and it stunned him for 1 round, because whenever haste drops, you know what I'm saying? So then now the werewolf escapes with the book and some other magic items that she had, erasing all the evidence of whatever's going on. She's dead, and all of the information that she had with her is dead, and now the players have no idea that that was Broadstone, who is now escaped and is their arch nemesis, who they trust far, far, far too much right now. She's dead. They can't get the information from her. They don't get her body. They don't loot her body with anything on there. So all of the nuggets I had on there for, like, if you want to see all of the nuggets I had stuff that I wanted to say as her that I was talking about. I hinted in roleplay that this had been a trap, and I knew that you were coming, and so like they're like, wait, she knew we were coming, which is hinting at Broadstone betraying them as well, because Broadstone alerted them anyway. And then this is all the loot, all this loot they didn't get all this loot. I stole some of it as the werewolf, and then I ran away with it, right? So now the werewolf gets away. The player tried to stop him, but wasn't able to do it. The werewolf gets away. Also, huge crazy moment. Darius does a plant growth, and he does this massive plant growth spell, and with the magic system that we have, it works a little bit different. But he has this huge, epic, like vines up everything to where he like literally, I picture something like X-Men or some sort of crazy display of power where he shoves his hands in the ground and vines shoot out and like entangle and encase almost the rest of the castle and like stop the guards from coming out, giving them a little bit more time. So they get the heck out of there. They get Corey up and over the wall. They escape. They get through. They fast forward now. They get out of the city walls. They get out into the forest, and they're safe. And I said, all right, what do you guys do? Just take stock of your inventory. Be very specific and careful with what you tell me. This is me giving them a bone. I'm throwing them a bone. I'm like, hey, what do you guys have? What are you keeping? All that kind of stuff. And we took stock in inventory because some of their stuff was on Samson, their donkey. And they don't have that kind of stuff. All they have is what's on their person and like their main loot bag. They don't have the general like tents and all that kind of stuff, right? So they took stock of all that, and this was in their moment. They could have looked through their inventory, and if they just scanned through their inventory, one of the items that one of the players got in session 6 was a church beacon. And if you guys have been here from the beginning, freaking props to y'all for being this from the beginning. But at session 6, they were passed by a group of people from the church. There were 3 people on cavalry horseback, and they gave them a church beacon. That's the magic item is called a church beacon. It is a simple beacon. It looks like a little lighthouse statue. You can use it as a light cantrip. That's all it is. It's a light cantrip, and you can use it for that. That's it. But it's also a tracking device. So they have had this thing on them since the beginning of the campaign. I was waiting for a moment to use it, and they never went through their stuff to think, wait, church beacon, wait, and they also have the tech beacon and all this tech gear from the Tech Nation, and they're running away from the Tech Nation. And I feel like one of the first things you do if you're on the run is like smash your cell phone. I feel like that's like a thing to do, you know what I'm saying? And they didn't do any of that. They kept all their magic items, they kept all their normal stuff. They didn't get rid of ditch anything of their gear that could possibly. So their tech beacon has a marking on it, and the oh wow. So they have a tech beacon that lets them talk with the Tech Nation's army. That's also a tracking device for the Tech Nation. They have a church beacon that's a tracking device for the church. They have a Broadstone, gave them specifically a beacon type thing to be able to talk with them. Like basically these are like sending technologies, aka through magic, that Broadstone has. Broadstone can track them, and they have something from Clara's father, who is actually a good person in this story, and he can track them. He can track her in some limited ways, right? So they have 4 tracking devices on them. And they didn't get rid of any of them. So there we go. Hopefully we'll see what happens now, because then they start to travel. They're going to head to Sanctuary. They said where they're going to go. We did some travel, and I said, all right, cool. We're going to do have a travel check. I have a D20 travel table that I roll on to see what happens, right? So I ask everybody to make a travel check and everything like that. We got a 1 natural 1. So overall, it was a failure to where I'm going to roll on the table. If they succeeded at it, we're just going to keep on traveling, keep on moving. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. But when you roll a natural 1 on a travel check, yeah, I mean, I got to roll on my table. I got to see what happens. Now, there could be some good encounters, neutral encounters, bad encounters. Who knows? I roll on my travel table, and I'm not kidding. 17, and on 17, actually, I'm going to show this. I'm going to show this exactly. This is how crazy this is. DM binder. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to scroll down here to travel table. Yep, travel table. And I go down to a 17. The church high priestess, Senna Gall, literally the person that they just broke into. I made this encounter table at the beginning of the campaign. At the beginning of the campaign months ago, I made this travel table to where if they roll the 17 here, the high priestess from the church, they're going to come across her. And when I first wrote this, they could come across her and she could be totally fine, that she would have maybe talked to them. And I have something notes here about brainwashing them possibly, or making some saves and talking stuff, manipulating their emotions, witness to whatever, right? But I was like, oh my gosh, the high priestess that they just killed, or, well, got killed by the werewolf. But the high priestess they just interacted with, I roll on the table and there it is. And so in my Dungeon Master ruling, I was like, well, she can't be here, but the church can. So I like looked, it's almost like freaking palm reading or something, or like tarot card reading. I don't know. I got a 17 on this thing, right? And I was like, what does this mean? What does this represent in this moment? I literally got the Senegal, the high priestess, who's dead right now. Well, it turns out this is the church. The church has found them. They've caught up to them, that from the tracking beacon that they have on them. The church has surrounded them by these people, and they got a combat on their hands. So we ended this session with another combat of somebody encountering them, talking with them, and I don't want to get into the whole thing, how it played out, but basically there's a Night's Watch where they got interrupted and we're talking to, and they got sprung on by the church, and they're now surrounded in a campsite. So we're starting off the next session in a campsite surrounded by the church that has came on to them, and we'll see what happens with that. So there's the story. I know I got a little crazy. This is probably the craziest most chaotic breakdown I've done of any of these Rifted Nation stuff. So stay tuned for more, subscribe for more, all that good stuff. Keep thinking outside the box. Peace.